You can't brag about a victory that hasn't happened. And you can't hype up a bill that hasn't done a darn thing yet, unless you're Joe Biden. Today, our commander-in-chief was taking a victory lap over his massive infrastructure spending bill.
Bipartisan infrastructure law that I signed, and it was a once-in-a-generation investment in our nation's roads, bridges, railroads, ports, airports, water systems, and high-speed internet. I really mean it. This is like a new industrial revolution.
Primetime launched an investigation into Joe Biden's new industrial revolution. $1 trillion, and a year later, and Biden's broken ground on one project. A heated sidewalk in a small New Hampshire town. And the project's not even close to finished, and it won't be before winter. The city of Berlin, New Hampshire has a 17% poverty rate, but the White House figured they could use a $20 million heated sidewalk. And surprise, surprise, the city residents didn't want it.
What's the worst part about living here?
The worst part about living here is probably just our isolation from like any major stores.
The 45-minute drive to everything.
You know, there's a lot of people in the street here. You know, there's a lot of drugs.
There's just nothing here.
How does it feel to not only be first in the primaries, but the first in the country to get Joe Biden's heated sidewalks?
Honestly, I think that's kind of a waste of money.
We do not need heated sidewalks on Main Street. There's hardly any stores there.
The money could probably be used toward something more beneficial.
It's the stupidest thing they ever came out with. They put heated sidewalks in at the Big Apple and it ices over and people get injured.
How much do you think these heated sidewalks and roads are going to cost?
Oh, I'm sure a fortune.
$20 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
We could rebuild this whole city with that money.
20 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
Why do you think they're doing it?
You know, from my 32 years of experience, this is what I think, you know, some of that money is going into some of their pockets.
Was it a community decision?
No, I don't think it was a community decision.
Would you say heated sidewalks have been high on your priority list?
No, they haven't actually.
No, that's probably the last thing I think about.
It's truly a waste of money.
Honestly, it feels a little embarrassing that we got all that money and that's what we're putting into it.
If you were the mayor and Joe Biden gave you $20 million, what would you do with it here?
Oh, I'd fix up all the abandoned houses, I'd make more treatment centers, more rehabs.
Is there a big drug problem here?
It's a huge drug problem, yeah.
We need affordable housing.
We get all these four-wheelers that come up here. We don't have one hotel.
I gotta have a homeless shelter for the people.
Programs for people that are addicted to things. I mean, there's a lot of that going on around here.
We have a lot of like drug addicts that live in the woods and stuff here, and it gets below zero all the time. Maybe focus on helping the people. Maybe it's 30 people that live in the woods that are addicted to drugs.
Yeah, I guess then the homeless people are going to be able to sleep on the sidewalks as well, because we got a lot of them, and I guess they have a nice place to stay warm now, huh?
Infrastructure projects because someone has to follow where the money's going. Joe has not built a single electric car charging station in 2 years, not a single one. But he's drained our oil reserves. Biden can't make, but he knows how to take, doesn't he? But that's the Biden administration's beat. Remember, never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. Here he is today, raiding the rainy day fund.
The Department of Energy will release another 15 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Drawdowns from the reserve so far have played a big role in bringing down oil prices, bringing them down.
Joe just told us there was a high chance of nuclear Armageddon. That kind of sounds like the type of emergency you might want to save up for, not Democrats losing the Senate. The rest of the press conference, Joe wasted yelling at OPEC, American energy people, and guys that own gas stations. Our very own stupid son of a bitch, Peter Doucy, asked the White House, what's the strategy?
What makes you think that they are going to listen to an administration that is ultimately trying to put them out of business?
How is the administration trying to put them out of business?
Well, they produce fossil fuels, and this president says he wants to end fossil fuel.
We wanted to show you the rest of her answer, but she didn't make any sense. But then about a minute later, the baguette lover says she's considering banning American oil.
How seriously is the administration considering a ban on U.S. petroleum products? So, everything is on the table?
Did you catch that? The Biden administration is considering banning U.S. petroleum products? I'm going to assume that the French souffle doesn't know what she's talking about and she doesn't know what a petroleum product is. Corinne Jean-Pierre is wearing petroleum products. There's petroleum in her blouse buttons, her high heels, her makeup. But don't worry, Joe's going to restock the reserves when the price dips down to $70 a barrel. But they blocked Trump when he wanted to restock when oil was $24 a barrel. So Joe's draining the stockpile just like he drained the PPE stockpile. Remember? Just like he's draining our weapons stockpile. The cupboards are going to be bare. But don't worry, Biden's going to sell taxpayer oil to the Chinese, the companies with the Hunter connection, and then use the revenues to buy guns for IRS agents. See how this works? American energy companies don't get to drill, create jobs, and make money. The Biden administration just does business directly with the Chi-Coms to prop up Democrats before the midterms. But don't worry. Joe says this has nothing to do with politics.
Is it politically motivated, sir? This was 3 weeks before the midterms.
Look, it makes sense, but I've been doing this for how long now? It's not politically motivated at all. It's motivated to make sure that I continue to push on what I've been pushing on.
It's not political because I've been doing it for a long time. Yeah. Let's bring in Senator John Kennedy, who's been ruminating over the heated sidewalks and the drainage of the stockpiles. Senator, your thoughts?
Well, first, Jesse, forgive my voice. I've been campaigning hard. What you just said about the so-called infrastructure bill is why I voted against it. It's only 23% real infrastructure. It has some good stuff in it, but it has a lot of really bad stuff. And I'm not going to buy a car to get the cup holders. My mother did not raise a fool, and if she did, it was one of my brothers. But the so-called infrastructure bill is emblematic of a larger problem. The American people have learned over the past 20 months that if you want something screwed up, President Biden is your man. It has been 20 months of misery and vexation, and Homer Simpson goes to Washington. I mean, pick your issue. The infrastructure bill, COVID, crime, the border, Congress, the economy, inflation, gas prices, Afghanistan, baby formula, for God's sakes. And that's why, based on the polling, you can see it, a majority of Americans believe that if you put the Biden administration in charge of the Sahara Desert, it would quickly run out of sand. Now, we need to ask why, though. That's important. And the answer is straightforward. Just look at the gene pool from which the president gets his advice. The wokers, the journalism professors with their comment-worthy man purses, experts like James Taylor and Vice President Harris. These people have way more zeal than wisdom, and they have turned our president into a caricature of this nice elderly gentleman, maybe on a day pass from the nursing home, happily eating ice cream and wandering around the country saying, well, the economy is slowing and prices are rising and your 401ks are crashing because the economy is so good and my policies are so good. And nobody's believing it because it's not true.
Well, at least a town in New Hampshire has a $20 million heated sidewalk for the drug-addicted homeless people to sleep on when it gets cold. That's true. He's actually going to do it, and he might have a ribbon-cutting ceremony to unveil it.
Jesse, may I ask you a quick question?
Please.
Real quick. Have you been to johnkennedy.com?
Not yet.
If you haven't, you need to go to johnkennedy.com and you'll learn about the infrastructure bill. And there just happen to be ways there on johnkennedy.com to support me because I'm up for re-election in 2.5 weeks.
Oh, you know, your voice might not be smooth, but your delivery sure is. Thank you so much, Senator.
You should have heard me yesterday.
Oh, I could hear you every day. Thank you.